What's up, everybody? Welcome to RideMSTA Podcast. I have new toys. I had to play with them. Tonight, we've got me, and we got RJ. Say hi, RJ.
Hi, everyone.
What you could have said "low, everyone," and that would have just threw them all off.
Well, yeah, but then it makes people think of low sides, and that's not a happy time.
I mean, there's a whole nother company doing a show that talks about high sides and low sides and all of that fun stuff. So
their budget's a little bit bigger than ours too.
Wait, they get a budget? Whoa! Where do we find one of those? Oh, man. Well, we are back again from another small hiatus. Sorry, everybody. Life is life. And, I mean, you'd think with me being snowed in all the time, but, stuff happens. Long story. Won't talk about it here. But we are here tonight. And we were supposed to have an interesting episode for you guys. I put out a question to everybody and said, hey, our rally season is about to kick off. I want to hear your favorite stories from all the rallies and things you've gone to. And I got exactly that many. So, thanks everybody. We appreciate it. But we are going to wing this tonight because I'm sure between the two of us, we've got a couple interesting stories. We've been to some rallies. You've been to some rallies, right, RJ?
Yeah, I have.
All right. I've been to a couple. Well, I've been to two actual differing rallies, but I've been to them a few times. So does that count? That counts. We're going to go with it.
Hey, quite frankly, if we don't have stories, we could start making them up.
So this one time at rally camp, somebody shoved a motorcycle into a ravine. No, that didn't actually happen.
Actually, it probably did, but
I'm going to try to keep
just
it
not
positive,
at our rally.
But I can, in fact, confirm that at one of the rallies they did attend, somebody did actually stuff their bike into a ravine. A complete user failure. ID10T error and all. But it is what it is. However, speaking of rallies, I have lost the page. There it is. Good deal. Rally season is kicking off. So everybody go over to RideMSTA.com/events. You'll get to see everything there, what's going on for the year. I mean, we're less than a month away before the first rally, and that's the North Georgia Classic. Tusky Muskie right on its heels May 1st, and it just goes crazy from there. Ozark Escape is also the May 1st weekend. I definitely go to that one because it's fun. And, a little bit of bias there because we know the guy who organizes it. I mean, we know the guy who organizes all of them, but that's Ozark Escape. That's Jerry's rally. So, big shout out to our boy Jerry James. So, yeah, go check it out. RideMSTA.com/events. Come find us. Come ride with us. Come hang out with us. Also, especially the weekend is June 13th. There's a little place up in Wisconsin that's hosting this thing called Twister. It's back, and we're rowdy. We're special up here. We got cheese. Man, you fuel a bunch of riders with cheese. I will pack you full of cheese curds. You'll have the energy to go out there and just slay those twisty roads. Horsepower and cheese, man. Tell me that isn't a perfect combination, RJ.
And at the end of the day, some good cold beer.
Amen.
Because you can't have cheese curds without a beer chase them down.
I always thought wine paired with cheese.
Not fried cheese.
Wait, this is Wisconsin. Beer pairs with everything. We're having filet mignon. What are you having to drink? Beer.
Miller Lite.
Oh, I said beer, not something resembling. Dude, Miller Lite is like the LaCroix of beers, okay? It's a carbonated-ish beverage that tastes like the beer truck that passed it going the other direction, kind of left some stuff in the can for it. It's a reminder that beer does exist, and now you just want good stuff. But we got New Glarus,
you guys,
we got Line. Oh no, wait, we don't have Line and Kugels anymore.
Hey, you have a fine beer named after one of your finest cities, Milwaukee's best.
Oh, you started at fine beer and then you just went right down that tangent? Once again, that tastes like it was in the can and passed a Miller Lite truck and then went sour. That is not beer. That's beer adjacent. That's what we feed good beer to make it grow up and make it strong and taste the way it's supposed to. But New Glarus is a thing. And we ain't going to be that far from New Glarus when we're down, playing around all this stuff. I mean, you're never that far from a New Glarus in the state of Wisconsin, so we're good. Speaking of rallies. So, which rallies are you planning to attend to this year?
Well, at this point, it sounds like it's mostly going to be Star and prepping for Star and going and riding routes near where Star is going to be for us. So multiple weekend trips up to that area to pre-ride and make sure everything's in tip-top shape up there.
What I'm hearing is you're going to be partying like a rock star.
There we go. There we go.
See, I can make jokes. It's a thing. Fair warning, guys.
What about
getting over the plague this year? Or this week.
Hey, this week's been a long year.
Oh God, hasn't it ever been? I'm pretty sure that I found the longest month of the decade in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And it's March of 2025. Hey, here's another kick in the head. How about another? Have another. More. But I'm still gainfully employed at least. I mean, I'm not worried about the company going under anymore, I guess. There's that. So, something went right this month. It sure isn't me being able to ride my motorcycle, considering we were almost clear and now there's another 6 inches of slush out there in my yard. I did.
Well,
I finally heard it run, though. I had to.
Which one?
The BMW, the GS.
Ooh.
I haven't heard that thing run since November, and I had to do a service on it, getting ready for the weather that hasn't come yet. And I got to start it. Oh, a 1200 Boxer with an Akrapovic exhaust. There's nothing better musically. Well, there are V4s out there.
Hey, I got a new adventure bike too, and it's only exactly 1,000 cc's less than the one that you have.
Yeah, but I have a major lust for those, so now you got to tell everybody what it is.
I just picked up a CRF 250 Rally. Decided to get a nice, real lightweight, more dual sport adventure bike. Something that I feel like I could pick up when I drop it, which I will probably do frequently here because unlike the rest of the country, I'm pretty sure Pennsylvania is built on a rock garden. And as soon as the dirt goes away, it's just rocks. Everywhere rocks.
I'm going to come out and play with you.
I see these pictures of people riding out in California and Oregon where it's just nice dirt and like there's dirt still. And as soon as they cut the single track in, it isn't rocks because the dirt's all gone. So
yeah, you get that
the only dirt that we have
mountain range out there.
The only dirt that we actually have that stays around is coal dirt.
Ooh, that gets funky on everything though.
It's sand. There. It's like sand.
It's black nasty sand is what it is.
Yeah, and it gets on everything. It just sticks.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I'm actually shopping for something smaller and lighter myself too, because somebody's daughter got upgraded over the winter, so she's now on a 125, and she's gotten out and she's been able to ride in our property a few times, and she's getting really good. And now she's chomping at the bit to go ride trails. I am not chasing this little kid on my goddamn GS.
My nephew just picked up a KLX 140, and then the next day his dad bought him a KX 110, the two-stroke, or 100. That thing's evil.
Oh,
that is a blast. That is an absolute blast, and like I can ride it. Like, it's not like it's small. It's starting to get fun. Like, we're getting into the point that I can ride his bikes now.
Oh man. I've taken Willow's little 125 out a couple of times. It's a 125 4-stroke, but it's full manual clutch and everything, and that thing's fun. Although I will say this, people do not realize those 100 to 125 cc 2-strokes. They are not the same as a 125 4-stroke. They are animals.
He had a KX 65 before, and I'm pretty sure that thing's only goal in life was to try and kill me, because there's no power valve on him or anything. So like, when it goes into the power band, like, I'm already have the suspension completely sagged out in the back because it's a 65 and I weigh 230.
Yep.
And it just wants to whip me off. Like, it hits when it gets on the pipe. The front wheel just goes skyward.
Yeah.
Like, how is a 65 trying to wheel me up, power wheelie me off?
Oh, I love a good 2-stroke power band, man. It's if you've never experienced it, people, you have to try it.
And it's different than even like the KTM ones that have the valve, the spring, the power valve spring, where it kind of like eases itself in.
Yeah.
That sudden hit of not having that, it's something.
That was like all of the old like 80s and early 90s 2-strokes were like that. It was just hey, whoa. Oh man, they were fun.
Yeah, one of my dreams is to actually get to ride like one of like the 500 2-stroke, like the sport bikes from the early 80s. That has to be so much fun.
Oh, they're mental. They are,
especially like the V4 Yamahas. And
so I had to really good joke going around back in the day, because everybody talked about the early 6th gen VFRs and their VTEC hit and how it was just kind of unpredictable. It's like, no, it's always in the same spot, but it was real abrupt all the time. I'm like, you guys have obviously never ridden old 2-strokes. Those were unpredictable and batty. Like, you get on like the old RD 350s or RD 500s, and it was just, and of course you had, like really garbage brakes and spaghetti noodle suspension and no chassis whatsoever.
The tires are recycled hockey pucks.
Yup. Bias plies. Oh, they were fun though. That was the definition of sketchy. And I'm here for it. I think everybody should experience that. It'll give you a great appreciation for modern technology.
Well, speaking of modern technology, something that we were talking about earlier, and Milwaukee, and melting tires.
Modern technology.
Hey, it has an RR.
I don't even understand. So what he's talking about, everybody, is Harley's plan to save the company. And it's the Street Glide RRRR. Apparently they decided to just put the pirate right into the name.
Well,
it's a Road Glide. I'm sorry, it's a Road Glide.
Most of it's leather pirate cosplay anyway, so
yeah,
they might as well have R.
$110,000. That's their solution. And I had
Sounds
to
about
laugh.
right.
Dude, I saw one of their ads pop up in my Facebook feed about it's the most powerful bike ever made or we've ever made. And it's like, did you forget you make a Pan America? It's
Actually,
125 foot-pounds and like 100 and I think it was 130 horsepower or something.
unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the Pan America is now the new Buell.
It's kind of turning that way, although the new ST looks pretty sweet.
Oh, I mean the bike. Well, again, bikes are great.
Yeah, so were Buells. I still
So
love
so
Buells.
were Buells.
But the dealerships are
It's
clueless.
yeah, and but and this is in response to Indian last year coming out with their RR version of the Challenger, which was a track only, basically factory spec King of the Baggers bike.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It was literally, hey, if you want to go play in King of the Baggers, here you go.
Exactly.
And you know the difference between Harley and Indian? Indian's not broke.
Well, apparently, these bikes sound like they're selling.
So the Indian one doesn't surprise me because the people that are buying into that, it's one of two companies.
Are going to race it.
Yeah, they're either going to race it or it's the really rich collectors that just want that piece. And that's kind of the same with the Harley. It's the only people buying that Harley are the people who are going to stick it in a garage and look at it. It's going into
I think they're only building, I think, 111 of them.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And I'd heard someone had talked to a dealer that they were friends with, and they said most of the dealers you're not walking out there for less than 130
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
with the markup and everything on it, because they said they're actually, like, I think, selling. Like, they found
dealers.
111 people with that kind of money.
Oh, that's not hard to do. I mean, there's 111 multimillionaires out there that are stupid enough to buy something like this and stick it in the corner. They don't buy them to ride them. They have no desire to ride motorcycles, half of them. And the people that are riding aren't buying these.
Unfortunately, compared to the one Indian came out with, this doesn't actually have the track chops either. This isn't, like, the bags are regular bags. It's it has, like, the most important well, let's pull up the specs for it.
It's basically a road glide with full Öhlins, a really expensive paint job, and the biggest motor that they could possibly stuff in it. That's it.
It had some very, from what I understand, it had some very, very important track features. I believe it has a Rockford Fosgate sound system.
It's the CDO on crack, is all it is. You know, it's got speakers in the bags because, you know, you totally want to give up luggage space for more stupid music. I mean, I can only stand a motorcycle riding past me blasting Freebird so many times before my head just wants to go.
It has aluminum in it, like they use in aerospace, fighter jets, and Formula One cars.
And most sport bikes since the 70s. Harley found aluminum, people. What are we going to
do? One of 131. It makes you, it's incredibly limited and instantly legendary.
Well, it sits in your garage, in your climate-controlled warehouse, amongst all of your other collector stuff, and never sees the road, because none of them will ever see the road. It's
150 horsepower, 150 foot-pounds of torque, and a 6,500 RPM redline.
Oh, that's right. It's 150 horsepower.
So hopefully it lasts longer than the motors that they race, which is one race.
You get out there and hammer on that thing, and it's going to do the same thing. All I can wonder though is your company is literally going bankrupt at this point. Like they're one step behind KTM. They are hemorrhaging money. Bad. Their dealers are getting forced to buy inventory they can't afford and they can't sell. But this is the solution. I don't want to see the motor company go away. There are some brilliant people that actually do work there, but Jesus, man, you just fire your upper management.
It does deliver MotoGP grade stopping power.
I mean, once. There's a lot of weight on its side.
There's the picture that they shows the radial mounted caliber with the bolts safety wired.
I question if they've ever actually ridden anything with real performance.
Hey, I've ridden one Harley Davidson before, and quite honestly, I wish the brake bolts were safety wired because they fell out.
Yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. So we had this argument in the MSF Rider Coaches Facebook group, and it was about the whole 4-finger braking and all that crap. And it's okay. So we teach it in the basic rider course because we want them to have a transition from throttle to brake. We don't want them mixing the two because they ain't ready for that yet. But the discussion went into advanced riders, and we had some of the waving hens out there. Oh, you can't do that. You'll crash and die if you don't use 4 fingers on the brakes. I actually used Harley as an example there. It's like I can stand my big porky GS on its nose with 2 fingers easily. I've done it for fun even. The only motorcycles I have ever ridden where I needed all of the braking power in my hand were big dresser Harleys because their brakes are atrocious. And I can't imagine this one being that much better.
Well, I mean, they do look like they are billet Brembo calibers.
Yeah,
like they're forged calibers.
With Harley's inability to design a braking system, it's going to need to be power assist.
Well, I mean, and it's a lot of weight. I mean, it is a very large bike to try and stop. Looking to see if they actually have a weight on there.
I guess my whole thing coming back to this is
785 pounds.
I mean, my GS loaded down is like 650, so I mean, it's not that far off. And I can stop that.
That's not loaded down.
But think about it, though. I mean, I'm not going to knock the fact that Harley makes a great cruiser. All right? But play to your strengths, and that is not a strength.
Yeah.
You're not a performance machine. Don't try to be a Ducati.
It does have bias ply tires, though.
They put bias ply tires on a 150 horsepower, $110,000 machine. Are you kidding me?
Dunlop Harley Davidson series bias black wall front and rear tires.
It's probably the only thing able to hold the weight of that big annoying thing.
Well, that's actually one of the issues with the baggers, like from what I understand, running at Daytona, and they can run 6 laps because that's what the tires can live to.
Yeah.
And they're running superbike tires at that point.
Well, and those bikes are light compared to.
Yeah. I mean they're I think their minimum weights either 600 or 700 pounds.
I thought it was 6. But I mean,
it's somewhere. I mean, compared to a superbike.
Well, I mean, you look at something like the Hayabusa and the ZX14; they're right around 550. So
yeah,
I mean, a 600 horsepower race bike out of these cruisers, that's a serious weight savings. I mean,
a lot more work. A lot more torque trying to pull that tire apart. And in fact, I mean, looking at Daytona, they can't run the super bikes there anymore either.
Oh, they can't.
Because they're when the 200s, 600s, like the next gen super sport.
Oh, that's right.
Because they can't get the 1,000 cc's the tires to last underneath them. Because we're putting that much power down.
Oh yeah, your leader bikes now are pushing well over 200 horse.
Yeah,
and they're pushing massive amounts of torque. So
yeah, I mean, and the stresses. I mean, they're 180 mile an hour on the super sports now, going around there.
That's moving.
So
even on a leader bike,
I can't imagine what it would be on a leader bike. And the lap times on the Harleys and the King of the Baggers aren't far off of what the super sports are.
A lot of that for Daytona is because they got the weight to just kind of carry themselves around that track.
Well, that's even at a regular track anymore. They're getting pretty close.
Yeah, and they can do it for
that's because
one run.
Yeah, and then they have to replace the motor. But you know,
and see, that's where you got to wonder what's the advantage to this. I mean, sure, they're fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, the King of the Baggers bikes are fun.
It's like NASCAR.
You're nuking a motor and those aren't cheap motors. You're talking a $30,000-$40,000 motor. You're nuking it every race. These super sports are going out there and doing it all year long.
Well, and by when I say every race, that's 2 per weekend.
Mm-hmm. So by the end of the weekend, you've spent more on motors than the super sport race team has spent entirely for the entire weekend. Entirely. Yeah. The crew, the everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the super sports are just, unless they crash them, they're just going to keep going.
And they're apparently starting this next year this year in Europe.
The Baggers?
Mm-hmm.
Do they actually have a market over there?
Apparently they do. Hey, I would love to see them let BMW into it. Get one of the 1600 Grand Americans or yeah, get one of those out there. I mean, they make the K1600 bagger.
Yeah. Although I have a feeling if they did anything, they'd let them with the R18, and that R18, I don't think they'd ever get it near.
Well, not only that, you can only lean like 20 degrees until you're dragging a jug.
Well, normally on these big cruisers, that's all you could do anyway. They just jacked up the suspension to compensate.
Yeah, when you need 3 people to hold the bike up so you can get on it.
You think about it, though, you're right. If they let BMW into the mix over there and they let them run that K1600 chassis, that's the end of that series over there.
Get that in, get the Goldwing in it.
I mean, and both those bikes are pumping almost that amount of power out just stock.
Yeah.
And they just do it for decades. And you know how many K1600s and Goldwings are out there with 400,000 miles on them, and they get they ring them out. A lot of those guys are not afraid to play in that power band.
Hey, the only thing that kills one of those bikes is the ABS system when it fails.
Not the newer ones.
Yeah, and they fixed that problem.
Yeah, in like 2010, 2012, I think, when they revamped it. Now it's just ABS working like everything else.
Yeah. But at least it doesn't lock.
That is true. That gets sketchy. But I don't know. I'm in Wisconsin, guys. I want to see Harley succeed, but their current choice in management and board of directors is failing this company something fierce.
Well, and I was actually listening to something the other day that was comparing them to Royal Enfield. And them talking about where Royal Enfield was 10 years ago or 15 years ago versus where they are now. And the difference is they have a CEO that rides.
Yeah. And that you talk about it, Royal Enfield also took a niche market.
Yes. and he's into bikes.
Yeah.
And Harley hasn't had a CEO that's been into bikes in a long time.
Matt Levitich was.
Yes.
He's the guy before Jochen Zeitz. He's the guy that
He's
spurred
in
the Pan America and the Rev Max.
And the Bronx and all of the things that didn't come.
Yep. And the live wire thing, he didn't even like the live wire. That was the catering to the economic climate. You know, a lot of the OEMs were getting forced to kind of dive into some of that, and there was, of course, there were grants and things getting offered to do it. So, like, none of that research was paid for out of pocket.
Yeah.
And I will say, as an electric bike, the live wire is actually pretty cool. I've ridden them. They're fun bikes to ride. They're just an electric motorcycle. It just doesn't make sense at this point.
At this point, no.
I mean, the small ones, like the some of the small zeros and stuff, if you're all in the city, they're great.
I've met a couple people that have had the Svartvargs.
Yeah.
The dirt bike. Apparently, they're an amazing dirt bike.
Oh, they're killer. But you think
and when you're
going to be out on the track for how long?
Well, I mean, even like the trails we were riding, hour.
Yeah.
You're beat. You're ready to come back and take a break.
Yeah, so if you can get an hour out of the bike,
that's the perfect market for those things. Plus, they're quiet, so then you don't have people complaining about the noise coming through the woods. And I think that may end up being the perfect market for it, especially if someone can come out with something like that runs on easily swappable batteries, that you could bring 2 batteries with you, take it back to the trailer, pull one out, put the next one in, you're good to go again.
If they really want to do some stuff, they need to look at the e-bike market, because I kind of started digging around into that just out of curiosity, and that's what they do. A lot of those e-bikes, you can pop the battery pack off really quickly and just swap them. That's the perfect. Now, for motorcycles, in order to really make it viable, it needs to be universal, but we know how manufacturers can be. We can't even get electric car manufacturers to agree on a plug.
Yeah, I've recently learned about that. We're renting one next week when we go to Austin, and I don't know what it is, so I can't even figure out where it can be charged at yet.
And you know what's universal? A gas pump.
Gas.
Absolutely. Everything. But I do think that the electric bikes in the dirt world make sense, because you don't have to worry about the spark arresters and things like that failing. You don't have to. There's no flame. There's no the noise ordinance things don't apply, and a lot of the state parks are going to noise ordinances.
Unless they burn up on their own, but
that's a whole different story. It's a step in the right direction, though. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense for trail riding.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Like I said, the Livewire as a bike was fun to ride. It's got some okay range to it, but it's still hindered by its need to charge and its refuel time, which is atrociously slow. Just like every other electric vehicle out there. But
well, I mean, and they didn't get to, none of the bikes I don't believe have gotten to like the Tesla level of recharge rates.
No.
Like with like the smart chargers, or have come to that sort of agreement with them to be able to use those things. So I mean, I could see getting to the point where you could be charging these things in less than 15 minutes.
That would be nice.
But because you can recharge one of the cars to 80% in less than 45, and the battery size is a lot smaller on the bike versus.
But they have to have a universal charging platform and all that stuff that we don't really have.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I still
Someday
think you're right.
soon.
I think trails and dirt riding is going to be where they really shine and continue to do so. But Harley didn't do anything with that. They just said, here's a really expensive street bike.
Yep.
It's kind of their
That
mantra.
and a street bike that's really not even. It's not in their wheelhouse either.
Yeah.
Like that's the sportiest bike they make.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sportiest riding position, the sportiest like peg, like lean angle. I mean that is their sport bike.
And that's the one thing I've learned kind of digging in with some of this Harley stuff. Um, little inside baseball. I've been trying to connect with the Harley PR department because I'm really interested in the RevMax stuff, specifically the Pan America. You got anybody who's listened to this podcast knows I got an obsession with that bike, and I really want to get on this Pan America ST. So I'm going down there once we have good weather again, and I'm going to take an extended demo on the Pan Am ST. That really seems to me at this point, there's like 3 Harley Davidsons. You've got the Livewire spinoff because that's no longer technically Harley.
Yes.
It's Harley owned, but it's not Harley.
Unless it's positive grant money, then it's Harley.
Oh, 100%. It's still the parent company. They're going to take any money they get. But yeah. They're definitely the outside child, the little redheaded stepchild. But then you've got the RevMax side, who's trying to bring stuff up and do cool new things. And then you've got Harley proper. And they are treating, like you said earlier when we were talking about it, they're really treating the RevMax bikes, the Pan America, and now, I mean, even your Nightster and your Sportster S, they're treating them like Buell. You know, Buell.
I was actually kind of curious how they were receiving the Sportsters.
They don't like them at all. It's not their classic.
I was to say I haven't seen one recently out in the wild, so I'm guessing not many of them sold.
Oh, they're out there. They sell pretty good, but here's the thing: even the people that worked on it will tell you that's not the bike they wanted to make. That's the bike they got approved.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't handle, it doesn't stop. It's just bonkers fast, and it's uncomfortable, and it's a really great engine stuck into a really mediocre chassis. And the Pan Am does that engine so much more of a service because that is actually a great bike to ride.
I enjoy watching the Moto America Super Hooligans because they've taken the Pan America and turned it into what it should have been in the first place and what the Harley should have made, which is basically a naked street fighter.
They've taken the Pan Am and essentially turned it into what they could make of the Bronx.
Yes.
Oh, that still hurts my soul, man. I wanted so bad for that bike to come out, and now it's basically they have screwed the company up so bad, and they've flat out said, nope, it's never happening. It's like, God, I've been on that bike. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. That's why Harley's in the position they're in. It's they keep pushing themselves away from their core market, and they're pushing themselves away from other markets. Like, who are you catering to at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's running out and buying $30,000-$40,000 street glides right now. Interest rates suck, and everybody's broke.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just Harley Davidson at this point. I mean, look at I think it's any of the high end niche markets, which I'm going to say $30,000 cruisers falls into, and so does $15,000 300 dirt bikes.
Yeah, so KTM found out.
And yes, I mean the only thing it seems like KTM's really having good sales on are like that 390 series of all of the things across the board that came with that because they're relatively reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And the 790s and which the 790, 890 until now that they finally admitted that their cam chains are made of cheese, or the camshafts are made out of cheese curds.
Yeah. And not good ones.
And fixed. Yeah, not the good ones. Like the non-fried cheese curds, just squeaky cheese.
Oh, I know. No, don't you be knocking my squeaky cheese now. No, these aren't the Wisconsin squeaky cheese curds. They were made out of some of that California bread stuff that crumbles when
like goat cheese.
It's goat cheese curds.
Brie. Well, actually, I don't know what cheese China uses, but whatever China's soft cheese was, that's what those camshafts are made out of.
Oh my god. Yeah, but KTM kind of figured it out, and like, as far as I know, the 1290s and 1390s were still selling really well.
But again, it's a super expensive bike.
And well, I mean, it's not that the expensive bikes aren't selling, but it's all Harley Davidson offers.
Yes.
Whereas all these other companies, I mean, BMW, they've got less. Their GS sells. That's their flagship. But they've got bikes all the way down to the $5,000 price point.
Well, and so does Harley. Not in the United States. Not in the United States.
You're talking about they're talking about bringing that tragic ass thing over here, and I just laughed. So we got a preview of that 500 when we got the XR 350As as the Riding Academy bikes. They're terrible.
Well, what's interesting though is that bike in other forms, I've heard good things about.
It's
because I believe it's the same as the Benellis.
And I've been on the Benellis. Their rider triangle is completely different.
Yeah, and that's so. Again, this is Harley Davidson taking something that was decent and fixing it.
The other issue though is like we had zero parts availability on these things. They break all the time. And they're going to bring this thing out there and try to price it into the same territory as like the BMW G310 series, the KTM 390s, stuff like that. And it's just not going to be even close.
Yeah, I mean, even just on like the spec sheet alone, I mean, I think that KTM 390 motor is like somewhere around 41 horsepower.
Yeah. That's right around 41.
That Harley's not even close.
No.
Like you're not. I mean, you are talking about a very freeway capable. I've been over 100 miles an hour on a track bike.
Yeah.
To that.
Dude, that Duke 390 is a rowdy little bike.
Yeah.
And that 390 Adventure is shockingly good too. Now, especially that they're going in and they're leaning more into it with the Rally version with the
and
wheels, and
they're coming out with a supermoto.
Oh yes,
and an enduro bike.
Oh man, that'd be.
Which I don't understand why they didn't why KTM it took them however many years that Duke 390's been around and go, wonder if we could make a dirt bike out of this.
I think they were feeling out the market with it just to see, because they already had a good dirt bike lineup. They were just grossly expensive.
But not only grossly expensive, but grossly expensive to maintain.
Oh yeah.
So you're looking. I mean, you're looking at a bike that you have a 10,000 mile valve interval versus a valve interval measured in tens of hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, those dirt bikes earn that ready to race.
They're fast. Oh, they've got the power and the performance. They're just really temperamental.
Yeah, and they're high strung. I mean, you can have lightweight, high performance,
and inexpensive.
But it's not going to be reliable.
Yeah, pick two.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, if you look at all these other companies, because KTM does it, they've got stuff all the way through the price range, all the way up to their flagship. BMW has stuff from that G310 series all the way up to its big GS and its K1600s. Ducati, even. The Ducatis, you've got your entry level Ducatis. You've got the single cylinder ones, the old Scrambler that, and now they've
yeah,
got like that single cylinder Supermoto.
that supermoto. Yeah,
But there's steps all the way up through because you've got those, you've
yeah.
got the Monsters, you've got the Desert X's, you've got everything all the way up to the Multistradas.
I mean, even in their sport bikes, you have the Panigale V2 before you get to the Panigale V4.
Yeah. And then before that, I think they still do the Super Sport, which is
Super
kind of
Sport,
that
yep.
hybrid. You know, you've
Yep.
got Triumph. They've got stuff from that 400 all the way up to their big dogs. All of them do it.
Yeah.
Even Indian. You
Yeah.
walk into an Indian dealer, you can get a Scout right now down around like $9,000.
Well, and they had that Scout 60 that was out for a while that I think it was a 5-speed instead of a 6-speed.
Yeah.
But still, the top gear in both the bikes was the same.
Yeah.
So capable of the same speeds, capable of the same level of touring. Little less horsepower.
Yeah. It was a really
But extremely, but a very good entry level bike.
Yeah. And it was good to ride. Like that Scout 60 is a nice little bike. And it was what, 8 or 9 out the door? I mean, it wasn't hard to get them for that.
And I think they were still like 90 horsepower.
Yeah, they were punchy.
Because the full one's over 100.
Yeah. The only caveat to this whole conversation was MV Agusta. They're the only standouts I've seen that didn't have something through their whole range.
Well,
but that's because they're niche bikes.
Well, let's face it. If you have $1 billion and you want to become a millionaire, buy MV Agusta.
Yeah. I'd probably be one of the ones dumb enough to do that. Not kidding.
But and that seems to be what happened. And that company changes hands every couple of years, and it seems to bankrupt whoever gets it.
And the sad part is they really do make some of the most powerful motorcycles available.
Didn't Harley own them for a little while?
Yes, they did. A very short little while because they had no idea what to do with them.
Well, either did KTM. They only had it for about a year, so. I
keep holding out hope that somehow Volkswagen buys them like they did Ducati. Because
it did.
Oh, dude, if anybody can turn around MV Agusta, it's those guys. Because they took Ducati and basically teamed them up with Audi. And they tuned up their reliability. They brought their tech up. They figured out how to make Ducatis work appropriately. And they figured out how to do the distribution and all of that stuff better. Like, that was Ducati probably would not be here today if it wasn't for Volkswagen Auto Group.
Well, we were talking the other day because I was seriously considering starting to look for when I bought the adventure bike instead, looking at an older Hyper Motard.
Oh yeah.
And I work on all my own bikes, and I wouldn't be able to do the service on that because I'm tone deaf.
There's an app for that.
Because no other motorcycle in the entire world do you need to strum to figure out if the timing is okay.
The first time I told my wife what I was doing with that service, she looked at me and she goes, "Do what?" Like, yeah, you turn it to this like a guitar string, dong, and I'm sitting there with, like, you sit there with a meter, and you just meter it till it tunes to that hertz. I think it's like 147 hertz or something like that.
If there was any poetic justice, this would be Yamaha. It's the tuning forks at least in their logo.
You'd think, but Yamaha decided instead they were going to make stuff reliable.
And work.
And it's funny because they're the same way with their instruments apparently too. So complete side tangent. My daughter, my youngest, is going through the band stuff with school right now, and she settled into the flute. She really loves the flute. And she had this one through the school rental program, and it was just, I don't remember what brand it was, but you'd play it, and she could play, and it was sounding okay, decent. I mean, she's 12. She's phenomenal with it, but she was always kind of struggling with it. Well, there was an issue with the case because it was one of the older ones, and the latches wouldn't stay latched, and the school kind of hemmed and hawed. One day it fell out of the case. She was holding it by its handle, and it just went bloop, and on the ground. And it completely threw the flute off. It was unplayable. So they had just gotten a new batch in, and her teacher, she's like, you take really good care of your stuff. Here, this is a brand new one, and it's a brand new Yamaha. And oh my God, the tone difference in that thing and how easy it is for her to play is completely different. It is so much better. It's night and day. Like there was notes she was struggling to learn that now she just and away.
She went from the CF Moto flute to the R6 flute.
Yeah, literally. It's great. So that's how Yamaha is with everything.
Is the flute cross playing?
Yes. It's a CPF.
Oh, good. SP.
Oh, definitely. It's got full Olin's pads on it, the whole 9. Rocking, man. But that's all these companies. That's even Yamaha's got a full range. Honda, all of them. They've all figured out you need a full range of bikes to sell.
Yeah. I mean, and unfortunately, and this is I think a big part of Harley's problem, and some of KTM's, but KTM's kind of figured it out a little bit. America's not the big market anymore.
No.
I mean, looking at the big market is India, China, and like they were hearing something about India the other day that their middle class is like getting huge over there.
Yeah.
And they're going from those 150cc bikes that you were able to ride a family of 4 and your 2 goats on to like 650 class bikes.
Yeah.
And that's where those Royal Enfield 650s are coming in. That is like buying a Ferrari over there.
And that's the one thing that Royal Enfield has figured out. One, they're a niche. Like there's nothing else like them out there. They've maintained this retro style with a little more modern flair, but not so modern they're expensive. So their price point is tremendous. Like the value proposition on a Royal Enfield. I know there's a couple of people I've talked to about this, and they complained about stuff like the valve adjustments. Oh my God, you got to adjust the valves every oil change. Dude, you know what it takes to adjust the valves on a Royal Enfield?
And the new ones aren't even like that.
No, but the old ones it takes 8 minutes. There's a cap. And you just pop the cap off, stuff the thing, and
it's like doing on a CB350.
Exactly. It's so simple.
And the 650s, the first couple of year ones at this point, they're getting to the point where they're downright cheap. Yeah. In fact, I think I was talking to Brad Batchelor the other day, and like I'm seeing them for $3,000 here now.
Oh yeah.
For a 4-year-old 650 that apparently is really reliable.
Uh-huh. He actually has my favorite Royal Enfield, and that's the Himalayan. I love that bike.
I've heard a lot of good things about the new one that just came out too.
I keep waiting. Like our dealership up here just started to get theirs in as the weather turned, and I am chomping at the bit to get up there when the weather gets good and ride the new one, because I've ridden the old one. And the old one's fantastic. It's never going to win a speed competition. It's slow, but it is just a great motorcycle to ride. And apparently that 450 is way punchier, but it handles better, stops better. but it's also retained all of that utilitarian, I'm just going to be the Swiss Army knife of a little motorcycle feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait to ride one.
And yeah, I can. The other one I'm looking forward to is what are the Ibex 450s,
Mm, plot
and
twist.
hopefully,
That same dealer. That same dealer.
yes,
Tytler's. And if you guys follow
yep.
racing, you'll know who Tytler Cycle is.
They run basically the factory BMW team for Moto America.
Yep. That's my local dealer, and I love those guys to death. They had Energica. Energica went out of business. They decided they wanted to replace them with another brand, and they picked up CF Moto. So now they are BMW, Ducati, Royal Enfield, and CF Moto. And they just got the Ibex 450 in this week. So I'm going to go up when the weather hits. I should be able to ride the new 450 Himalayan and the Ibex 450 the same day. That's going to be a really, really interesting swap to see what they do between the two of them. Because they are competing in almost the same market. They're a little 450cc adventure bike, and it's going to be great. But, yeah, if anybody hasn't had a chance to go out and check out the 450 Ibex yet, I know the 800 got real popular really fast, and a lot of people had some good stuff to say about it. But that 450, it's like this really cool little...
With us going down to MotoGP this weekend, this next weekend coming up, we're not taking our bikes down because we're flying, but I think there's 5 or 6 brands that are doing demos down there, and we're taking gear because I really want to ride that Ibex 450 and that new the 675 that CF Moto is coming out with.
Oh, that 675 SS.
Yeah, I really. I think Triumph's supposed to be there too. There's the new Tiger 800 Sport, which basically took my Tiger 800 that I've had for years and I absolutely love and fixed the 3 things that I said were wrong with it. So I'm really looking forward to riding that.
I really want to try
cruise control 17-inch wheels.
Oh, they did a sport touring variant.
Exactly.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I think the newer motors have a little bit more power than my older one does, but I've never wanted anything more out of that bike.
I want to try the new 1200 Explorer too, because they updated that one for 25, or was it for 24?
Yeah, I think Yamaha is going to be there.
Ooh, are you going to get a chance to crack at the R9?
So I'm not really interested in it, mainly because I'm old and my back hurts. And I've ridden, and they make that bike, they make that sport bike already for that person.
What?
The XSR 900.
Ah.
Which I absolutely love. Every time I ride one of those things, I come back on,
one of our riding buddies picked one up.
Need a new bike.
One of our riding buddies picked one up at the very tail end of the year last year. Oh. And I can't wait to meet up with him because I want to take that thing for a spin because it's the new one.
They're fantastic.
Well, and I loved the CP3 platform.
The old one was great.
Yeah, I rode the old one. This one's the updated one, and apparently they did some really wild stuff with the suspension on it.
It's a good looking naked sport bike that's somewhat comfortable. I wish they'd bring the GP version of it in.
Oh, right. I was looking at the R9 simply because I love that CP3 so much. And I keep telling my wife, it's like, I really want this, like, I want a rowdy little sport bike to sit next to the BMW for the days when I want to go out and just carve it up. I still have a love affair for sport bikes. And I was looking at like all these older leader bikes, things like that. Like I would love to have another 0405 ZX10R, but it just doesn't make practical sense because I'll never be able to stretch it out. That R9, it's like all I can think of is that's going to give me all of that fizz, but it's going to be practical.
Well, and we're kind of in a boat, right? We're having a rough time right now. Carrie's looking for a new sport touring bike that someone that is 5'5" can very easily ride. And it doesn't seem like that bike exists.
What else she looking at right now?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the problem. Like the MTO7, the XSR 700s, those kind of bikes fit well. But like with the Yamaha, you have to go up to a Tracer, which is an adventure height bike. And now you're talking about someone with a less than 30-inch inseam trying to sit on that tall bike. And that's kind of where we've gone. Like she had ridden my VFR and was able to get on it. But no one makes a low sport touring bike anymore.
Go have her demo a BMW F900R. Because tip's 5'4". It comes with cruise control. You can get it with the full dynamic ESA. It's stupidly comfortable. It's literally just like a grown-up version of the G310, the way it's laid out and everything. And it's like just a bigger version of it. But it's that parallel twin. It's narrow. It's comfortable. Like, dude, that bike fully kitted out with the cruise, all the premium options, the ESA, the adaptive headlight, everything. It's like $12,500 new.
Well, that's not bad.
No, they're reasonable. And that cruise control is godsend.
Yeah. Well, and that was the big thing with the Tiger that I'm glad to see that 800 Sport has is the cruise control.
Yeah, and that F900 you can get a full luggage kit for it, like the full 3-piece kit.
Well, and that's faired too, right? Or partially faired.
It's the little bikini fairing, but it's got enough there. Like, and there's an aftermarket like crazy for it. Like you can get aftermarket screens for it. All of that. So it's
and that's the problem with like the bikes like the MTO7 and all. No one's making anything that has a windshield on it, like any kind of wind protection on it. No. That bike, she loves an MTO7.
Oh, they're fun.
And the even like the what is it, the GSX8, like the S and the R, there's not a sport touring version of that bike.
No, and that is a missed opportunity because they need to take like if they took that GSX 1000 GX or GT design language and moved it to the 8, they'd have a winner immediately.
Well, I mean, even the 8R is a good looking bike.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic and a nice. She's ridden one or two of the different versions of it, and she loved that bike too. Those middle parallel twins are absolutely forgiving, and
they're
lovely bikes to ride. And
and they make a great sound. Like you put those, that's that 270-degree crank, I think, in that. And it's got that real rowdy, almost V-twin sound to it.
Yeah.
And that torque signature on them, they're perfect street bikes because you've got all that instant power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, have her test out the F900. And you can actually find one a year or two old right now for like under $9.
Our BMW dealer is really good about getting demos in too, so that's usually a pretty easy one.
Yeah, have her check that out because I mean they also make like an XR version of it, and they make I think they got the F900 GS, but those are all going to be way taller.
Well, and that's kind of I think where Suzuki went too. They have the V-Strom 8 that isn't a V,
right?
But that's where I think they're pushing people for like that the touring type bike there.
Yeah, and that's the of course it's going to pop up on my screen now. Somebody said my audio was all goofy. All right, we're gonna try that now. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, they're not catering to that shorter rider.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we've had this discussion. It actually popped up in one of the MSTA side groups for the members volunteers page. By the way, if you guys are willing to help out on the Facebook group, Norm regularly posts the info for getting into the members volunteers Facebook group. That's a private group for people who are willing to help out with some of the MSTA stuff. It's not just for state directors, things like that. It's any of the members who want to help out. But, side note over, there was a discussion that was brought up into that about what we could do to bring more women to MSTA. Tiff and I had a short conversation about that. It's not MSTA that's struggling. It's the industry in general.
Yes.
Women riders are becoming a much more prevalent thing. I see almost a 50% shift in my students coming into riding that are female. But the bikes aren't there.
The gear's coming around too. It's much easier for me to find good gear for my wife than it was for us to find stuff even 5 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that are starting to see that too. Like Icon, now that they've got their heads together again, they're doing great stuff.
The one thing, like you said, the bikes, and the one company that kind of courts, well, the two companies that kind of court to that group are Harley and Indian.
No.
Especially Indian. Indian
does.
really leans into it, but I mean, they make bikes with low seat heights.
Yeah, and Harley though. The Harley's really kind of like they keep pushing all the women that I see come into there to either the Nightster or the lowriders, and that's two very similar bikes. And most of these companies don't realize that women have a more diverse taste in bikes than we do.
Yeah,
like my wife's all over the board. She likes them all. Oh, then again, so do I. But that, like, you look at a lot of the women riders that are going through our courses. What are they looking for? They're looking for those sportier touring bikes or the adventure bikes. Like, women really want to get into adventure touring. That calls to a lot of them. Like, most of the students I have come through that are female, that's what they're trying to get onto. They're going onto the dual sports. So,
and there's a couple of those that are still out there that are good bikes for that, but they're all dinosaurs.
Yeah, like your CRF.
At least my CRF's fuel injected.
That's true.
I'm thinking like the XT500s, the TWs.
So
I would have said the DRZ 400, but they just took that bike, fuel injected it, and made it KTM priced.
Yeah, that one just.
I don't know what they did, what they were thinking there when it's almost the same price as a CRF 450, but
yeah, that's not. No, that's gonna flop. And I like the DRZs, man. The DRZ 400 is the reason you can't say Supermoto in my house. But like, I know, like Tiff right now, she's got a massive lust for the TW 200s. She rode one of ours up at the Tech, and she fell in love with that thing.
Oh, they're great bikes, especially for somebody trying to get used to and trying to learn balance, because those tires are just so wide and you get such a good footprint to be able to balance yourself out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if they could update that TW200 just a little bit, throw some fuel injection on it, and maybe give it more than 45, 50 mile an hour top speed. Like get it up to highway speeds, we'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, put the Ninja 400 rotor in it.
I am here for that.
Well, and they did have that that Versus 300 that I believe the seat height wasn't crazy high on it.
I actually had Tiff sit on one of those when we were shopping around, and it was completely like she was 1 foot on the ground. That was it.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yeah, Versus
the Himalaya.
Yeah, the Himalaya is great.
Yeah.
Like, and that
And
450, I cannot wait to put her on that 450.
the Himalayan 450 or the Ibex?
The Himalayan. I think the Ibex is going to be too tall. That's
Yeah,
a
I was going to say
tall bike.
the Ibex looked like it's about the same height as my Rally.
Yeah, it's up there. Actually, Andrew makes a good point. It's not just the bikes and the gear; it's the culture here in the U.S. too, because we've got a really big contingency of the women should be backpacks, so they're not going to cater to that market. I'm sorry, that's BS. I love my wife riding with me. Like I much prefer her on her own bike.
Same here.
Yeah, it's my favorite riding partner. I'm sure Carrie's yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, that's who I prefer to ride with, because neither of us get upset at each other if the other one decides to wants to take a break after a half an hour or wants to stop somewhere. Or...
Yeah. Oh, my wife laughs because she always feels like she's slowing me down, and I keep telling her, it's like, I don't care. I'm out riding. We're riding at your pace. I'm good with that. I'm still riding. Works. It keeps me from doing stupid things, man.
and every once in a while, when we're on a road that we both know, I'm like, just get on the intercom and say, I have the zoomies. I'll meet you at the next stop sign.
Oh, we've done that.
And
I've had her out in front of me, and we've been coming
she
up.
knows.
There's been times she's been out in front of me, and I've been coming up to some corners I like to play around in, and it's like, bye-bye.
And we both know, like, she's not going to, I don't have to worry about her trying to keep up with me.
Yeah.
And she knows that I'm not trying to lose her. And there's no, it's not a competition.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like, the MSTA, it's not our issue internally. Because I will say we actually do.
No.
We treat our female members the same as we do anybody else in the club. It's, hey, you're welcome. Come have fun. We don't care if you're a backpack. We don't care if you're riding your own. You're a part of the group, man.
In fact, I believe they're at least the last start. I know this one they're looking at they do a women's like session.
Yeah.
For women to get together, and it doesn't matter if they're riding or if they're just even there along with the husband because they trailered the bike there. And they don't ride at all. They're just going to go shopping or whatever, because the rally kind of caters to whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So it's definitely not an MSTA issue. It's
no.
an industry issue.
And unfortunately, I don't know that it's going to get better here, because I think there's unlike the past when we were a predominant market, we are now not getting bikes that the rest of the world is getting.
And we've always kind of had that issue. Like, a lot of companies, they've been so risk averse to bringing the stuff over here, just because when they do, it doesn't sell.
But generally not platform engineered bikes. Like when they come out with like something with like the Hornets, like the Hornet 650.
Yeah.
Like they came out with the Transalp of it. We'd get all the versions of that bike, because the expensive part for any of this is actually getting the motor through emissions.
Right.
That part's been done. There'd be whole families we wouldn't get.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to test the motor. But like once the building block that the rest of the bikes are platformed off of comes in, we usually got all the other ones. There are a bunch of bikes on that 750 platform that we're not getting.
Well, and
even
Yamaha's got that issue too, because you look at their
yes.
racer lineup. Like, we get the MT-07 and we get the R7 now because the sportier bikes sell, but they will not bring the Tracer 7 over here.
Yeah, or the XSR 900, that the sporty MotoGP version looking.
That one kind of surprises me, because you would think.
I think it's the headlight.
I think so, because I know the MT-09 SP sold like gangbusters.
Yep,
and that's
I think it's the headlight.
An XSR 900 SP.
The United States has some pretty odd rules on lighting.
They got the MT-10 through. Come on, they can get it through.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting headlight that's on that. It's very small. So I don't know. I have a feeling that's where it might end up. The problem might be, but I mean, heck, there's a lot of like even like the Duke 390s and all. Everywhere else in the world, LED turn signals, not the United States.
Yeah, which floors me because there's LED turn signals on literally everything else.
Yeah, apparently there's some issues, and a couple other motorcycles are the same way.
But like, have you looked at the new MT09s for 2025? And that, I mean, their headlight is that big.
Yeah,
And that's coming.
yeah, maybe it will then.
I don't know. That's what I'm hoping because that MTO or that Tracer 7 is actually a cool bike.
Yeah,
That XSR SP, that thing is bonkers.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
But we're kind of back now. But talking about that, you'll go back to the women's stuff. You look overseas, women they're just as normal as the men in most places, and they have a huge contingency of bikes that we don't see over here.
well, I mean, even over in like the beginner level bikes, there's so many more options if you're in Europe because of the tiered licensing.
Yeah,
That it's not a machos have to not be on a 125. Everyone has to be on a 125 to start.
I mean, you know my opinions on the whole tiered licensing thing. We should have it, but we'll never will. But you're 100%. I did not realize this, speaking of that, but over in Europe, where that's a hugely predominant thing, I thought everybody that rode over there worked through the transition just naturally. Apparently not. Apparently a lot of them get to their, was it like class 2 license or whatever, where they can ride up to, I think it's 600 cc's or something. And that's where they stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, do you really need more than 60 horsepower to enjoy the experience?
Truthfully, no. And anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about.
And that's kind of, I mean, at that point, you can very easily run highway speeds without it stressing the bike.
Yeah.
You're able to keep up. You're able to pass relatively well. It's a good middle. I mean, 65 horsepower 30 years ago was a
super bike.
Was a super bike. Yeah.
Well, you think about it, like, and I run into this into the class, especially when I was teaching at Harley. Oh, you have to have a big bike to get on the highway. Dude, my wife would chase me around on my GS or my Tracer on her little G310 for 400 or 500 mile days on the highway everywhere, and it did fine. It sit at 80 mile an hour just happily. She said it got a little buzzy just because it's a single cylinder and the handlebars would buzz a little bit, but the bike did it fine. It didn't hurt it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's still running.
Oh, it runs great. I'm gonna end up handing that one to Willow. I have a pretty sinking suspicion.
I was gonna say your daughter will probably be riding it in a few years, and
yeah. I mean, it doesn't owe us anything. It's cheap to own. It's cheap to maintain. At this point, it's not even worth, like, if we sold it outright, it's probably a $3,500, $4,000 bike. I mean, at this point, what's the point in getting rid of it?
Yeah, and that's it's great that those bikes, at least some companies are making those bikes at a reliable, entertaining platform.
Yeah. And then you get onto that 390 version, because that 390 and that 310 are basically made in the same place.
Yeah.
And that 390 is a little bonkers machine.
I have not gotten to ride the Triumph 400, but I'm hearing that that's somewhere in between the two.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a lot smoother. And it's
but the power's not far. The power is not far off of the KTM. It's a little bit less, but
the G310 runs right around 35. The KTM's like 41. I think that Triumph 400 is somewhere in like the high 30s. I think it's like 38, 39.
Dan Williams says in the chat that the 310 needs turbo.
Yeah, he couldn't get it out of my garage without stalling it. So,
Well, I think supercharging, I think, would be more suited for that bike.
oh no, not as high as that thing revs. To put a turbo on it, dude. That thing revs to like 11 grand.
Could you imagine what the lag would be like on that though, until that thimble actually like built up enough pressure in the turbo for the exhaust?
So you remember how I said I like two strokes? Okay, that's it. When Willow's done with it, I'm making a turbo 310. Hey, oh my god, it's just a tiny little turbo. Be like 60 horsepower by the time you're done with it. Oh, it'd be a riot. Oh, I'm gonna have fun with that now. Well, we have totally not actually covered the topic that we were supposed to cover.
Absolutely not.
But you know, hey, I blame the community. Y'all didn't send us any good stories, and
so I have a slight rally story that relates to that. The reason Carrie is looking for a new bike is that the bike that she typically takes to these sort of things is her Triumph, which is still carbureted. And the last rally we did down in West Virginia at Canaan Valley, by the time something happened in the transport down there in the trailer, and it kicked the float, something must have broke free. Float was leaked into the cylinder, went to start it, immediately fouled the plug.
oh,
And had to spend most of the first day going to find a spark plug to replace the plug in the bike because it was only running on one cylinder.
oh man.
So now she's like, I want something fuel injected and that like has power to go do this and would be a good touring bike.
I don't know, man. I can say a lot of things about the Thruxton, but I never thought it lacked power. That's a bike.
And hers definitely doesn't. I mean, hers has a bunch of work done to it. They're not stock carburetors. She has CR pumpers on it.
Ah, okay.
So it's definitely, and I think the prior put cams in it too.
Oh.
So I mean that from what I saw, the build sheet for the company to put this kit together, it should be somewhere between 70 and 80 horsepower.
Oh, nice.
Out of the 900. Yeah, I mean it. I've had that bike well over 120 miles an hour.
Oh, they're so
torquey
and they sound so good.
Yeah, and it sounds fantastic on the video. New York safety track, the front stretch is a runway.
Oh yes.
So I mean, the bike's never leaving. Like that, the Duke 390 will be the one that gets sold. That bike's staying.
Oh, dude, I would have a hard time letting go of Thruxton.
And it's an 04, so it's like you said with your BMW, it's not worth anything.
Yeah, and it's so cheap to own that. Why?
Yes,
and they're so and
in 2 more years, I will no longer have to pay registration on it, and I'll no longer have to get it inspected
because it's a classic.
So,
yeah, that's one of those bikes. I still low key, if I found one at a good price, I would probably snag it.
If you ever want to turn a $5 water bottle into something worth a ton of money, put a Climb sticker on it.
Hey, don't say that. Next thing you know, Climb's going to be selling them themselves for like $60. They're going to go to the dollar store, buy up all the water bottles, and just slap Climb stickers on them. Here, premium.
It does work great. Like the Climb does. It keeps water on one side of it.
This is true. All right. Well, I'd say we've off-tracked enough for everybody tonight. What do you say, RJ?
I agree. I think we're good. Did it stop snowing there yet?
No.
And if any of the members are going to be down at MotoGP, shoot me a message on Facebook, and we'll try to get together on Thursday.
Yep.
Because it's supposed to be raining.
And for any of you guys up north, as soon as the weather decides it doesn't hate us anymore, we're going to be getting together and grabbing some food because I'm hungry. I'm on a weird diet. The only time I'm allowed to eat weird stuff now is when I go on my rides. I'm allowed to have my cheat days on my ride days.
So you're going to start riding every day?
Yes. Yes, I am. Although, this whole new mountain bike obsession that I got back, well, it's not new. I'm just getting back into it after a 20-some year hiatus. I don't know, man. Getting back in shape, it has its advantages. Like Dan said, brookie dough. Yes, I am all about that brookie dough.
What is brookie dough?
Brookie dough is the greatest ice cream ever invented, and you can only get it at some of the Quick Trips. It's part of their in-house brand. And it is amazing. It's literally brownie batter cookie dough.
Oh, man.
Yup.
That sounds great.
If you guys ever get to meet Dan in person, which if you come to Twister, you will. Dan is about 15 years my senior, and he is way better shape. Like, Dan's kind of ripped. Big health nut, like him and his wife. His wife's a personal trainer. Like, they own a gym. Like, they know what they are doing with fitness. And that will end his diet every time. I mean, I'm a bad influence too, but like that
he says it's kryptonite.
Yeah, it is. It is 100%. He talked this stuff up for months and I could not find it. It finally popped up in the Quick Trip next to where I work. And he was not kidding. Dude, we went to Slimy Crud Run. And the hotel we were at, there was a Quick Trip across the street. All day long, we're riding. He's like, oh, we are going over there after. We'll grab some food, and we've got to grab brookie dough. They did not have it. Oh. I was so bummed because he took me out for dinner that night. We went to this really awesome steakhouse. And I was looking forward to that brookie dough to finish it off. Although their cookie dough, their regular cookie dough is really good, so I settled for that. But he was actually mad. He was so pissed.
So, do they actually have scoops of ice cream there?
So they sell it
at the Quick Trips.
They sell it in the little pints or whatever.
Okay.
Or they sell it in they've got the brookie dough only comes in the little ones right now.
Yeah.
And they've also got the quarts and the gallons and stuff too that they sell for their.
Okay. I'm trying to, because there's one of the convenience stores up in New York, they actually dip ice cream at it. And I can't remember what the name of it. I didn't know if that was the same way.
No, they don't have the little ice cream. It's all prepackaged and stuff, but oh, is it good. It is so good. And I got lucky because Dan was like, as soon as anybody in your house, we're ice cream nuts in this house.
Same here.
So the Wisco Moto Ride, Eat, Repeat. We go on a ride with Tiff and I. It's got to have food and ice cream every time. That's the requirement.
That's what got Carrie into riding. Was the fact that we got ice cream somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of how Tiff is too. Gotta have the ice cream. But he was like, yeah, as soon as they find that, you're gonna have to hide it. Nobody in my house likes it, so I can get it all to myself.
Dan says, God help me if they start to sell it in half gallons.
Oh, if they start selling it in half gallons, he's gonna be my weight in a month.
I was gonna say he's gonna go from being the jacked ripped fitness guy to being Wilford Brimley and.
Oh man, I'm telling you, he's so close to retirement at this point. You're gonna see him if they put that in half gallons and Wisconsin makes pot legal. He's gonna be instantly Munchie City. I think we're safe on both right now because I can't barely find the brookie dough and the pints. It's sad. God, now I want to go find some. I know they got it at the Quick Trip on the north end of town. I might brave the snow. All right, everybody. We're out of here. It's been fun. It's been great. Dan says 350 and happy because he'll have brookie dough. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.